Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here today on this lovely, cool Thursday. I hope no one's plants died last night in the cold snap. And if that did, I hope that's the absolute worst thing that ever happens to you. We have a quorum. Let me see here. We have Derek, Eric, Len. Okay, yeah. All right. I call the meeting of the Boston Region Metropolitan Planning Organization Administration and Finance Committee to order. This is the notice of non-discrimination. You are invited to participate in our transportation planning process, regardless of your race, color, national origin, including limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, ancestry, ethnicity, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, veteran status, or background. I will now read the meeting guidelines. All participants will join the meeting with muted microphones. Please rename yourself to include your first name, last name, and affiliation. Participants can mute and unmute themselves. Always remain muted unless actively speaking. To participate in the discussion, please select the raise hand function. You can find this by clicking either on the participants button at the bottom of the screen and a window will pop up with a raised hand button at the bottom, or the reactions button in the toolbar. I will call upon participants as I see them. If you're on the phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand. If there are any technical difficulties, please contact Erin McGuire via the chat, via email at emaguire@ctps.org, or by phone at 857-702-3681. I'll read the accessibility statement. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting is accessible to persons with disabilities. Zoom products are compliant with exceptions with the following standards: Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 Level AA standards and revised Section 508 standards. If you require any additional accommodations in order to participate fully in this meeting, please contact Erin McGuire via the chat box, via email at emaguire@ctps.org, or by calling 857-702-3681. Thank you. This is introductions. Good morning. I'm Brian Kane. I have the distinct honor to chair the ANF committee. And Silva, can you please do the roll call to ensure we have a quorum?
Yes, of course. MassDOT Office of Transportation Planning.
Yep, Derek Cravat here from MassDOT Planning.
Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
Good morning, Eric Barassa with MAPC.
Regional Transportation Advisory Council.
Leonard Diggins, RTAC here.
And Metro West Regional Collaborative.
Dennis Giambetti from Metro West Regional Collaborative and Representative Mayor Siski.
Great, that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Silva. So we will now move to public comments. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment, you can use the raise hand function and we will call upon you. I see 14 participants and no individual raising their digital hand. So we will close public comment. And we'll move on to action item number 3, and it's just an action item, summary of the April 27th, 2023 meeting. And I wonder if any member of the committee would like to make a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve the summary.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Silva, call the roll.
Leonard Diggins.
Yes.
Derek Cravat.
Yes.
Eric Barassa.
Yes.
And Dennis Giambetti.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I vote yes too. Great. And now the heart of the matter. So discussion of the operations plan draft document. So we all received both a red line version and a clean draft version for everyone's perusal. I'm hoping that we can run through this rather quickly and maybe even make some real advancement today. I know we've worked on this a long time. I want to thank everybody for all of their effort. I found a couple of little things, we capitalized some words here, but not there. But for the most part, the content seems okay to me at this point. I do note that the draft did not include the executive director section, but that's easily tacked on, and it was included in the materials here today. So we all have that, and we can all make it work. So I know there's been lots of work on this. I really want to thank the activities group for putting it together. I can tell by the formatting and the editing that this is not easy. This has not been easy to get all this kind of working and lining up and having a table of contents, and it is a lot of work. So thank you to the activities group, and thank you to Annette and Gina and Tegan and the committee members for putting up with me during this process. I know it's been fun. So with that, Tegan, I don't know if you want to say anything or sort of introduce anything. Otherwise, we'll just move on to a general discussion.
Thanks, Brian. I don't have any major topics to bring up that I wanted to highlight for the team, but at the highest level, I will just say that I think that the edits to the sections in here should reflect feedback that we already received from you. However, there were some sections that we didn't fully discuss last time because they hadn't been fully incorporated into the document. You have seen the content for all of those, but I just wanted to emphasize that if, for example, if Derek, I don't know if you were getting further input from within OTP on some of these sections, we would just like to know, as you go through this and as you finalize your conversation, if you need time for any additional review, we would have to talk about, how we would structure that with this group. So with that, we're happy to essentially answer any questions. If there are any further edits you would like, that is also part of the conversation. But I don't feel the need to sort of highlight any of the particular edits that we made. I also should call out, I apologize, Brian, that the executive director hiring section that we identified a few days ago that we had unintentionally not included in the full draft. We had quickly shared out one version of the hiring process that you all had discussed, but you had already seen a more final version. And so we made a mistake in terms of which version we shared with you that was posted to the meeting materials. So that version that you will see today will be the version that is the one that you more officially saw back on, I believe it was March 2nd, and essentially were in support of. But we will also reshare it after this meeting so that you can have the document with the correct section in it. But essentially the content of what you saw and what will be included is essentially the same. It just looks a little different in terms of formatting.
Thanks, Tegan. Understood. Does any member of the committee have any questions, comments, or concerns? Derek Cravat, please.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Tegan. Yeah, I think the only outstanding piece is David hasn't yet reviewed in coordination with others. The last section, I think starting on page 27, the agency information sharing section. I think he'll probably have some, it might be a different version, wherever the agency information sharing. Yeah, this piece here. Maybe just some small tweaks to this, but other than that, I think, I looked through it, seems like everything has been incorporated. So I appreciate that. But just wanted to note that this is one that's outstanding as far as I think OTP's review. I had some notes, but I just want to confirm with David that he's in agreement with those. So I know timeline is on the agenda, but I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about that in relation to that.
Sure. Very appropriate.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I'm just curious what the estimate, like when the final, when the preferred kind of timeline for having a final draft is, and if there's still time to get you comments.
So there's a discussion about whether we can get this kind of done by next Thursday, the 25th. There is a rumor that there's going to be an MBTA Board of Directors meeting on the 25th, which would mean I can't be here. But you guys can clearly do this without me. So that's up to folks to decide. Otherwise, we'll probably punt till June to give folks a little more time to make sure that everything is kind of the way they want it. I'm okay waiting till June. You know, we've done a very deliberative and thorough process so far. There's no point in hurrying now. So I would suggest we kind of, unless there, you know, if there's nothing major, we can probably move this forward today. Otherwise, we can wait till June. Obviously, Derek, we want to make sure that you're comfortable, and David is comfortable.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah. Not sure if Tegan wanted,
Yep.
Does
Tegan,
that
you
work
want to
on the-
jump in there and tell me
yeah,
how
yeah.
I'm wrong?
No, that's, you're completely fine and right about the ANF committee side of it. The, in terms of bringing a full draft to the board, the policy board, we had hoped to introduce it at the June 15th MPO policy board meeting, because that will be an in-person meeting, and also slated for the agenda is some discussion or introduction of a discussion about the federal certification recommendations around the MOU. So they pair together reasonably well. But regardless of whether it's on the agenda for the 15th, well, if it was on the agenda for the 15th, we would need to be doing an introduction at that point. We wouldn't be able to expect, you know, board members to have fully read this document and, you know, be fully immersed in it the week before the meeting. I think they'll need more time than that. So if we can get it posted, the date is 1 week before the 15th, June 15th, which is, I think, June 8th. That would be a nice target. So I would just add that in there, but we will also need a week from any final edits to be able to run this document through our usual editorial process, which will clean it up, smooth it out, you know, fix formatting and make sure the language is consistent and that grammar is consistent, et cetera. So we need a week for that. So if you were able to finish this up today or the 25th, that's certainly very reasonable. If you were to finish it up on the 1st, it would be a little bit tighter. But if you finish it up after that, we would need to target a new MPO policy board meeting when this would be introduced.
I think it's reasonable to suggest that 1 week from today, on the 25th, final edits, suggestions, comments, concerns, queries be given in for editorial review and editing. That should give your folks a week, Tegan, to go put it through the processes that you have to put it through. That spits it out around June 2nd, 3rd. And then we could theoretically get it out to the members certainly a week to 10 days in advance of the meeting on the 15th. So I think that's the goal. So unless anyone has any objections, I'm going to ask for final edits to be in by next week. Of course, that assumes we get through today. Leonard Diggins, what do you got to say for us, poet laureate,
Thank you.
sir?
Thank you, and I apologize for the background sound. You know, I don't have any control of this. You know, so I have a couple edits that I think would be easy to do. Being one that I don't feel that strongly about, the other one that I do. On page 9, towards the bottom, it's section 5. The last sentence is, in addition, the chair at their sole discretion shall ensure that all member questions are satisfied. It just seems that it doesn't really go with the rest of that section. I mean, I want to suggest that we just break it out into its own section, just call it section 6, and it'll be like a 1 sentence section, but it just, to me, it's like the first part is about responding to requests for information 48 hours in advance, and that last sentence talks about how the chair interacts with board members, before calling for a vote. Understand what I'm getting at?
So is it at their sole discretion that you'd like to strike?
Oh, no. It's just that so that is section 5, that entire, all sentences in that section or in section 5, I want to suggest breaking out that last sentence, keeping it as it is, and making it a separate section, calling it section 6.
Okay, you want that last sentence, in addition, the chair to be section 6. And
Yeah, I
then
guess,
the current
yeah.
section 6 would move to section 7.
Yeah, right. And I guess, if we do make it a separate section, we would strike out the in addition.
Yeah.
Clause, or not clause, phrase, so, all right.
Yep, so section 6 would read, the chair at their sole discretion shall ensure that all member questions are satisfied before calling votes.
Right.
That seems reasonable to me and not necessarily material or a major change. I don't know if anyone objects. Eric, you've been doing this a long time. Derek, that seems fine to me. So yeah, I'm gonna call that a non-material change, more of an editorial change,
Yeah.
since it's just numbering. So if you can just make a note of that, please. Tag in, stroke, and that, stroke everybody. Thank you.
And
Niels, what else you got,
and
Len?
the second one is at the very top of the document. And so I apologize if I missed this last time. I'll blame it on being in town meeting. So I mean, I didn't realize that we were striking all of the text regarding our compliance with non-discrimination laws and regulations, and the paragraph above it is okay. I rather like all of the text that was there originally. If we want to stick with striking it and just keeping the paragraph that we have, then I would request that we then add like a parenthetical phrase or a sentence saying for the full text of all our compliance, see Appendix A, and then move all that context to an appendix. What I kind of like about that is that it allows for that to expand. Should we have more to add to it, but this harkens back to our discussion last week, where I'm rather proud of what the MPO does in this realm, and that's it's very thorough. I hope it is complete. I mean, if it's not, then I'd say, let's make it even more complete. But I kind of regret the loss of it, and now I think that might tell me why I should not regret the loss of it.
Annette, please educate us.
I'm gonna stop.
Thank you. Yes, this change is because we have updated our non-discrimination statement based on our work with ODCR, who, since we are a sub-recipient of federal funds, we take guidance from ODCR on what our statement should be. And so the idea was to simplify it, because there's a lot of text there for people to read, and to make it something that's more user-friendly. It's not that we're not protecting all those classes. In fact, some of that information is out of date as well. But it is our most recent update that we are just starting to implement.
All right. Well, all right. Well then, so much for that. So I still had to say, I got a response that tells me, I should be okay with it. I'll get myself to being okay with it by the end of the meeting. So, right. Thank you. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Len. Anybody else? Derek, Eric, Dennis, any members of the public? My friend Johannes is here from CLF. We were in a meeting last night at Brookline, so Johannes, thanks for being here. Jim Fitz, I know you're here. If anybody has anything to add, you're more than welcome to be recognized. Eric, anybody? You don't have to, but feel free.
No, what is the deadline again for final comments?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Okay, great.
Yep. So we'll say close of business next Thursday, the 25th. The earlier, the better, however. Okay.
So I have a question regarding the timeline document that you sent out, which I think is just kind of like the timeline for the MPO, with respect to how it works with handles a tip. And so this is more just curiosity, educational. On December line, it says MPO staff shall post obligated project lists which summarize how projects fared in the previous fiscal year before asking MPO to vote on the new tip. So that's referring to, so the part about when in the fared in previous fiscal year before asking them to vote, when is that? I mean, is that referring to May? I mean, or when we vote, on releasing the tip, or June when we vote on the final version of the tip? I just don't understand the reference. There was referring to what the time is referring to.
Anyone know what
I
the
can
reference
answer-
means?
I can answer if you like.
Yes, please. Thanks.
So
Sarah.
I believe, and forgive me, I don't have all of the documents in front of me and I have to remember sometimes which comes from which place, but I believe this came out of the MOU language, which has a language in it that says that this information needs to be shared before the board can vote. But the idea here is that one should know in December, in the first quarter, or at the end of the first quarter, how the prior year's projects have fared in that year. So it gives some time to gather the information, but provides it in the first quarter so that then as the tip process evolves, you have that information at hand to understand how projects have been faring. So I believe it came from the MOU, and I can work to just sort of like find the spot in the MOU while we're talking if you like, and I could send you a reference or elaborate further.
Annette, do you know?
It's part of our federal requirements as well, to post the list of obligated projects. And so that's a process that we do every year.
All right, so then I can just go back to my notes and see. I mean, it's more curiosity than anything else. Since no one else had any questions, I figured I could occupy that space without anyone else an opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Dennis Giambetti, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, is the plan to meet next Thursday, the 25th? No?
Well, so I mentioned earlier, I have I think the
Yeah.
T's board is meeting that day. I don't know right now if I can be there.
Okay,
I don't need to be here. But we do want all final edits in by next Thursday, such that a clean version can be sent out in June. So we probably, we don't necessarily have to meet again to approve a final version. We can take a provisional vote today, subject to editorial edits, not editorial edits, subject to editing, not of content, but of grammar, et cetera, et cetera.
right.
And just trust the staff to kind of put it in. Unless there's any material changes, I don't see us needing to get together again.
Okay, yeah, I guess the earlier comment about David's going to review a couple of sections, will those be minor edits? Do we anticipate, or will they be substantive in nature?
My hope is that they're minor edits, but I will have a conversation with David.
Okay, that's the only caveat, that's all.
Yep. And if we have to come back, we'll come back. I'm not afraid of coming back.
Okay.
So I can also speak to that if that's okay.
Please.
I think that David's concern with that section, the agency information sharing, and it seems to be reflected in the timeline as well, has to do with putting new obligations on highway division staff to come and present information that they're not already presenting. I think that's the crux of his concern, is just putting additional work and burden on highway division. So that's what I've gathered. So I just want to make sure, that if there is something new being proposed, that it's very clear and explicit, and that it's clearly communicated to folks. That's like something that they're not already doing, and whether that's the most optimal or best approach. So I think that's what his comments are. So just wanted to flag that, like in this timeline, for example, I think in March and January, MassDOT staff present project readiness updates. Like, that's an example. Like, is that something that's already happening, and it's just sort of stating that, as part of our normal updates, as part of the TIP process, or is it introducing some kind of new process that isn't already being? I think it's just clarifying that and making sure the wording is reflective of that.
Okay, so how about this? Everybody get their stuff in by the 25th. We will schedule a A&F meeting on June 1. which is 2 weeks from today. We can always cancel it if we have to. Otherwise, we can gavel in and have a final discussion and possibly take a vote. In the meantime, we will all try and have discussions about it. If we approve this on the 1st, that still gets CTPS a week up until the 8th to do their magic and still get it out in advance of the 15th. But Tegan's going to now tell me why we can't do that.
I would never say that. As always, I just want to add to what you said, which is that I believe we are already targeting scheduling a June 1 meeting, because we will also ask you to look at our state fiscal year 24 operating budget,
Yep.
discuss and bring it to the full board for approval that day. So I think what we will need to determine is whether or not, depending on what we see in the next week in terms of edits, if you feel like the 9 to 10 timeframe will be adequate for both, or if we will need to talk about some additional time.
Guess we'll find out based on what we get in from the edits. So, yeah, so everyone, please get in your final things by next Thursday, the 25th. That will allow us to make the decision whether or not there are substantive changes or not. If not, we will bring a final version to bear on the 1st. And if there are substantive changes, we will try to have a very quick discussion of those on the 1st, and then do the budget to give everybody sufficient time to get the final edits done in time for the meeting on the 15th for the full board. Does that sound reasonable, I hope, to everybody? Cool.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you, Dennis. Any final words of wisdom or questions, comments, concerns? I want to make sure that everybody has been heard. I know there's a lot here. We've been working on this for a long time, and this isn't going to be perfect. I did a similar thing for my organization a year ago, and we have meetings coming up in June to edit a lot of it because we lived with it for a year and sort of figured out what worked and what didn't. So we will go through that, and that'll be okay. This is a first draft, and it will be imperfect, but it is a phenomenal start, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done. So unless there's anything else, what's next on the agenda? Where's my agenda? Timeline, we've already done that. Communications norms, Tegan Tyke.
Thank you. If we could please bring up this document. So this document is also, like the timeline, intended to be an appendix, or at least a very, very close complement to the operations plan. But as you already know, this is intended to be signed separately so that there's an awareness of this framework that's been put forward. So most of the document is exactly the same as what you saw last time, but if you could please scroll down to the last section of it, the reporting section. At the last time we discussed this, you gave us, enough committee members gave us feedback that they would like to add in some more clear steps around the observed, what happens if there are observed violations of these norms. So we did do that. We added them in here. And I also just wanted to be clear that we had sent this document as well as the operations plan to legal staff for legal review, just to ensure that we are in alignment with any legal requirements. These steps do not hold kind of any real legal weight. So that's not the intent. We also wanted to make sure they didn't conflict with any kind of legal framework. So we made a few other minor edits based on that review. And I believe it was changing. It used to say the executive director has the right to or may investigate. And we changed that to will, because I would likely have a responsibility legally to investigate any violations related to staff. So it's not super substantial. And the other thing that was added was letter C under 2, because again, if there are violations that require it, we would need to refer them to human resources if it steps up to that level. So those are the only additions, which is sort of to cover ourselves, to make sure that we're not allowing ourselves to ignore, fundamental kind of requirements to step up to address any of these violations if they rise to that level of a violation. So I hope that's clear, but we just want to make sure that you are aware that those little changes have been added and made to this, and answer any questions if anybody has them before it goes to the board.
So just in terms of version control and also for the ops plan itself, can you maybe send around the final kind of working version that you folks have so that we're all working off the same document? Just to make sure that the executive director portion is what we want it to be, and that section C here is noted, or just confirm that the one we're working off of is good to go.
Yes, we can, after this meeting, we can send a operations plan document with the proper, as you said, executive director section plugged into it. So it is one whole document, and we can
Right.
resend this and the timeline just to make sure in one place we have sent you all of the most up-to-date documents.
Yeah, perfect. And then make Len's edit to the thing as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes,
then
that is a quick one. Yeah.
then we'll all have one hymn sheet, proverbially speaking, to sing from, and we can all, that'll be great. I think that'd be really helpful, because I am a little confused on version control, to be very honest with you. So
Thank you for your patience. It has been a process.
I don't know. There's just lots going on in May for all of us. So there's just lots to do. Dennis, is your hand up from before? Or do you want to comment again?
It was from before, sorry.
Oh, no problem. Len Diggins.
Sorry, I've gotten louder here. Look, this is great. And I know that it's probably a tone thing. And even though I tried to be humble, and I'm sure I failed miserably, and most of the things that I do, with respect to this organization, I think we do well enough. You do very well in what we strive to do. I think we can even say that we do it. So in that first sentence, it says that we strive to offer inclusive forums. I would say that we just offer inclusive forums, because I don't really think we fall short. And so it's just a tone thing. I mean, if people want to keep the strive there, that's fine. But I just want to say, I'm okay if we strike it and just say that's what we do. That's it. Thank you.
So I agree that we do that. I guess I'm just a little concerned because you can always be more accessible. You can always be more available. You can always be more conducive. So I think we should continue to strive to be more and be better. So I'm okay leaving it as it is, but I understand where you're coming from.
I said my piece, so that's it. So that's all. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
No problem. So the same timeline holds for this, folks. So get us your edits by next Thursday. Then we'll meet again on the 1st, hopefully to vote to approve a final version. That is, unless there are substantive and material edits to discuss. And I'm looking at you, Derek. Try to get David to give this a little time. I know that's hard, but please do.
Yes, yeah, I am actually meeting with him this afternoon about some other things that's on my list of things to sort of nudge on. So I'll make sure to relay that timeline.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're good on this one. I don't see any hands popping up. All right, cool. So we'll move on to member items. Are there any member items? Seeing none. Next meeting is June 1st. Everybody's clear on the timeline? So get your final edits in to everything. Tegan and the team are going to send out in one email final versions of us to work from. We all have 1 week from today to get our final edits, changes in. I'll talk with the team next Friday, probably. We'll figure out if the changes and edits represent substantive or not. Either way, we'll meet on June 1st to hopefully take a final vote to approve final versions based on the edits or not. We'll also start talking about the fiscal 24 budget. And we are still eyeing a June 15th date to bring this before the full board. Hope that makes sense to everybody. Home stretch, folks, we can do this. All right, unless there's any member items, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Without objection, we're adjourned. See y'all in 20 minutes. Thanks.